Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this hour. Market stages a recovery in the second half, ends flat as yet another volatile session keeps indices within a tight range. Sensex and Nifty clock marginal gains at the end of the session. The pressure mid-cap stocks saw on Thursday intensified. Paytm Payments Bank sees its first resignation since the RBI's restrictions came into place. Sources say independent director Manju Agrawal has resigned from the bank's board a day after the central bank's crackdown was announced. RBI Deputy Governor M. Rajeshwar Rao cautions NBFCs on peer-to-peer lending, says they have observed certain business practices that do not appear to be in line with its guidelines, warns that irresponsible practices would compel them to act. Steel giant ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel makes a U-turn in its tussle with IOC, tells the Supreme Court that the two companies have agreed to arbitration over IOC's claim of unpaid dues worth 8,700 crore rupees from SR Steel. Both companies submit that arbitrators will be appointed in a week. LIC delivers in the third quarter. Profit soars 49% on a yearly basis. The insurer announced a dividend of 4 rupees per share. LIC Chairman tells CNBC-TV18 that FY25 will be better than FY24. Says he expects double-digit growth in its annual premium equivalent in Q4. The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Communications and IT highlights cyber fraud losses worth 5,574 crores in the first half of the current fiscal in the wake of RBI action against Paytm. Parliamentary panel flags serious lacuna in use of virtual accounts for masking money trail of cyber frauds. Former Prime Ministers P.V. Narasimha Rao, Chaudhry Charan Singh and agricultural scientist M.S. Swaminathan will be conferred with the Bharat Ratna posthumously. Prime Minister Modi makes the announcement on X, says Rao's tenure fostered a new era of economic development. Shoot-at-sight order issued in Uttarakhand's Haldwani district to prevent clashes from spreading further. The curfew comes after 2 people died and 250 were injured amid violence over razing of a madrasa and adjoining mosque. The death toll in Gaza nears 28,000 as Israel intensifies attacks. US warns Israel against pounding Rafah, where millions of Palestinians are taking refuge. US says it wouldn't support Israeli military operations in Rafah without a plan for civilians. Independent candidates backed by Imran Khan's party take the lead in elections for the Pakistan National Assembly. Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz is the single largest party so far, with Bilawal Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party a close second. Dollar and bond market and the stock market tumbles. Right, let's start with the day's market action. The market staged a recovery in the second half and ended flat as yet another volatile session kept indices within a tight range. Sensex and Nifty clocked marginal gains at the end of the session. The pressure mid-cap stocks saw on Thursday intensified. And Prashant Nair joins us with the latest on the market. Prashant, over to you.
Well, the market stuck to the trend of, well, no trend. Because, there's been no follow-through on day two. And every single day for the last 6 or 7 days, we've seen that. Yesterday, for example, we had a large sell-off after the RBI disappointment. But, well, the market didn't follow through. We had a bit of a bounce, about 50-60 points higher is what we had in the Nifty. So it again, puts one in a quandary whether the market will push higher or, we'll see some pullbacks once again. Similarly for the Nifty Bank, actually it's a very strong session, 1.5% higher nearly on the Nifty Bank today. And in that sense, it looked good. But again, as compared to a day-on-day kind of trend, it's been all over the place and you're in a range once again. Mid caps and small caps were down sharply, about 2%, but they did pick up through the course of the day. I'll get to, stocks there in a bit, but I'll start with Nifty. Grasim, and actually not just Grasim, but Grasim is the Nifty stock. I'll talk about other 7 names in a bit. Apollo Hospitals, where the company actually, said that their digital health business perhaps will break even sometime in the first half of FY26. Sun Pharma did well. SBI continues to power higher. ICICI Bank and Hero MotoCorp were some of the other names which did well. On the lower side, you had Mahindra & Mahindra, Bharti and ONGC, which were pullbacks. Now, in the broader market, as I said, cement names, ACC and Birla Corp which did very well. Financial names, smaller ones, Yes Bank, there was Bank of Baroda, there was Jio Financial Services, which looked up. Zomato, of course, earnings reaction about 3.5-4% higher. There was Oracle Financial Services, Z is back above 200 rupees. There was Electra, the EV bus maker, Idea, Aarti Industries on the back of earnings looked up. Orchid Pharma, KCP, I mean, down and out name, but looking good today. Global Spirits was another one which did quite well. Long list of losers from the PSU space because that's been the winner for so long continuously. PFC, REC, Indian Oil Corporation, SJVN, RVNL, Railtel, Hindustan Copper, BEML, GICRE, EIL, NLC India. I could go on there. Paytm was another name which saw some pullback, second day running. Ramco Siemens and Apollo Tyres were the other two. As I said, in a bit of a quandary once again after the bounce, it's a 200 broad point range, 21,700 on the downside and about 21,900 on the upside. Back to you.
Right, thank you, Prashant, for that. Moving on to the big exclusive we are tracking this evening. Trouble continues to mount for Paytm after its payments bank sees the first big resignation following RBI's crackdown. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that independent director Manju Agrawal had resigned from the board a day after RBI's action. Shares of the fintech company's parent, 197 Communications, remained in the red today as well. Ritu Singh is here with the latest. Ritu.
Well, thanks for that. The troubles don't seem to end for Paytm Payment Bank, and following the lapses that have come to light when it comes to regulatory compliance and other issues, the spotlight very much has shifted to the role of the board of directors at the bank. And now we've been given to understand that just a day after RBI's public notification announcing these restrictions on the bank, at least one board member has submitted her resignation. Now, we've been given to understand that Manju Agrawal, who'd been serving as an independent director on the board of Paytm Payment Bank since May of 2021, submitted her resignation as a director effective the 1st of February, that is a day after RBI's actions. Now, Manju Agrawal is a veteran banker. She's been with State Bank of India for nearly 34 years and retired as the DMD. And we've been given to understand that following RBI's restrictions that were placed on the bank, Manju Agrawal chose to leave because she believed that this impacted her board positions in other companies. Now, this is not good news, of course. You have a board member resigning right after the Reserve Bank of India's action. We've reached out to Paytm Payment Bank for their comment on the story, but we haven't received one yet. As far as the board is concerned, it is a 9-member board that is headed by Vijay Shekhar Sharma. It also includes Surinder Chawla, the CEO of Paytm Payment Bank, and Bhavesh Gupta, the CEO of Lending and Offline Payments at Paytm. It also has 5 independent directors, and that includes the likes of Ramesh Abhishek, who's a former bureaucrat, the last secretary of DPIIT, Shinjini Kumar, Pankaj Vaish, and Arvind Kumar Jain, besides Manju Agrawal.
All right, thank you, Ritu, for that update. Speaking of Paytm, the company's e-commerce arm has changed its name to Pi Platforms and has acquired Bengaluru-based startup Bitsa. Reports have suggested that Paytm had applied for a name change around 3 months ago and received a green signal from the Registrar of Companies on the 8th of February. And speaking of its acquisition, Bitsa, the company that Paytm is acquiring, is the 3rd largest seller platform in terms of transactions on ONDC. The deal is in its final stages and will likely close in the coming week. This acquisition comes as Paytm's payments business is currently under the regulator's scanner. The Reserve Bank Deputy Governor M. Rajeshwar Rao has warned NBFCs on peer-to-peer lending. Speaking at a CII event in Mumbai, Deputy Governor said MFIs have been reluctant to pass on benefits to borrowees as directed under the new regime for microfinance loans. He added that such instances will compel the central bank to act.
It is observed that while the lenders have been quick to pass on the increased costs to the borrowers, they have been reluctant to pass on the benefits envisaged under the new framework to the borrowers. Some of the MFIs have increased their margins disproportionately under the new regime. We are not oblivious to the misuse of the freedom provided to the microfinance sector and some of the irresponsible practices some of these entities are having, and perhaps more such instances does put pressure to act on these entities.
Right, LIC reported a strong set of third quarter earnings with the value of its new business surging 46% on a yearly basis. Its total annualized premium equivalent also saw positive growth. Speaking to my colleague Yash Jain, company chairperson Siddharth Mohanty said he expects the next fiscal year to be better than FY24.
Enter FY24, Q1 and Q2 was not that good for LIC. And we have now in Q3 we have started moving and we have shown good result, particularly in margin and VNB growth, all these things. Q3 some improvement is there, and that's why I told it is just beginning. And this Q3 will not continue to Q4. Q3 will continue further. So FY25 will be still better than FY24. AP has shown some positive growth and it will further improve. Looking to our product line and all other things, AP positive growth will be there in Q4.
The Income Tax Department is likely to send notices amounting to 25,000 crore rupees to insurance companies. The notices are likely to be sent by the end of March. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the companies have allegedly paid higher commissions and claimed deductions for the period before the 1st of April 2023. The Bombay High Court has granted relief to Mercedes-Benz. The court put an interim stay on the demand for IGST dues on salaries paid by the automaker to expatriates under the reverse charge mechanism. The stay on the order will be in effect till the next hearing. The Revenue Department will submit a counter affidavit in 2 weeks. And speaking of GST demands on salaries paid to expats, sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the Directorate General of GST Intelligence has sent show cause notices to 240 companies to the tune of 3,300 crore rupees. Timsi Jaipuria joins us now with the latest. Timsi, what are your sources telling you?
Well, that's right. The Directorate General of GST Intelligence has issued show cause notices to about 240 companies demanding GST dues on expat salaries and expenses. Sources say that GST demands of about 3,300 crore rupees have been raised by DGCA, and several companies post-investigations have voluntarily actually paid a measure of this amount, that is to the tune of about 2,500 crore rupees. Some of the top companies that faced GST demands for not paying these dues include Maruti Suzuki India, which paid about 139.29 crore rupees voluntarily. Panasonic India paid 75.30 crores voluntarily. Shell India, they paid about 46 crore rupees voluntarily. India Yamaha Motors Private Limited, 36.68 crore rupees were paid voluntarily. Similarly, IBM, Sony, Aramco, they also paid a measure of their amount voluntarily. Apart from that, some of these companies which were raised the demands that were below 10 crore rupees include Reckitt Benckiser, American Express, Benetton, Bombardier, LinkedIn, Oracle, Google, and many more. So all of these were on the radar of DGCA, and yes, during the investigations and post-investigations, a lot of these companies have paid voluntarily. Let's see how many more come up to make these dues voluntary payment. Back to you.
Thank you, Tipsy, for that comprehensive update. On to another CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Asian Paints aims to become a 1 lakh crore revenue-making company in the next decade. The company's CEO, Amit Single, told CNBC-TV18 that the company plans to retain margins of up to 20% and will invest the rest in growth. He added that Asian Paints is mulling on making the acquisition in the home decor space.
We have started to kind of really look at saying that can we be part of the consumer decor lifestyle. So as we are looking at going ahead, we are looking at offering almost everything which really goes into a home to that extent. And as I speak, we've got into lighting, we've got into UPVC doors and windows, we've got into wooden flooring, kitchen and bath is already with us, we've got into fabrics and furnishings as I look at it. And therefore, as we kind of go ahead, we are always on the lookout in terms of saying that is there something which really synergizes in terms of our strategy, in terms of making it big to that extent.
ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel has taken a U-turn. The company has agreed to arbitration with Indian Oil over unpaid dues worth 8,700 crores from SR Steel. The steel giant has submitted that the High Court order which quashed the claim be set aside. Both companies said that arbitrators will be appointed in a week. The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Communications and IT has flagged serious lacuna in use of virtual accounts for masking money trail of cyber frauds, highlighting that cyber fraud losses of 5,574 crore rupees were incurred in the first half of the current fiscal. The panel also said that the low recovery rate is hurting the country's trust in digital payments. Ashmit Kumar is here with more on the panel's observation. Ashmit.
Well, the Parliamentary Committee has submitted its report before the Parliament. What's important are four key takeaways now. Number one, the first key takeaway is the mandate of this Standing Committee was to look at digital payments. And on that front, some very scathing observations have been made. Number one, the Parliamentary Committee concludes that there is an issue of trust deficit as far as the digital payment ecosystem is concerned. To substantiate its case, what the Parliamentary Committee says is that cyber fraud to the extent of 5,500 crore rupees took place in just the 6-month period from April to September of 2023. This is more than double the figure for 2,300 crore rupees of cyber frauds for the whole of 2022. And importantly, the committee also records that as a part of the repatriation exercise of recovered funds is concerned, that's extremely low, is pegged at just 10.4% of the entire quantum of cyber frauds. That's concern number one. The second is, and this is what the committee calls, is a very serious lacuna in the Indian banking system, and that is a reference to virtual bank accounts, to virtual wallets. And this is interesting because it comes in the wake of RBI action against Paytm Payments Bank. Now here as well, the Parliamentary Committee records as a part of its report that these virtual funds and virtual accounts are being used to mask movement of funds, that they're indicating perhaps money laundering exercises, and says that even anti-money laundering operations and counter-terrorism operations will not be able to detect movement of funds given the current status quo. That's second. The third is with respect to penal provisions. The committee records as a part of its report that as many as 55,000 cases were up for trial in 2021, and only about 500 of them saw convictions, which is a conviction rate of lower than 1%, which means that there is a need for, in fact, revamping and administrative and legislative reforms. And finally, what the Parliamentary Committee concludes is that given the wide range and nature of stakeholders, there is a more cohesive, cogent approach that is required to be followed by the government to ensure that enough preventive measures are taken. So that's the recommendation coming in from the Parliamentary Committee on the issue of digital payments.
Right. Thank you, Ashmit, for that detailed update. Moving on, the Parliamentary Panel on Transport and Tourism has suggested that the Aviation Ministry should empower DGCA to regulate ticket prices. The panel also recommended a mechanism be built to control surges during the festive season. Remember, DGCA has a tariff monitoring unit, but does not have any power to regulate tariffs based on the data. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear pleas by startups challenging a Madras High Court order which upheld Google's app billing policy. However, the Apex Court refused to pass an interim order protecting these startups from being removed from Google's Play Store. This means that Google can remove the apps of these startups if they are not in agreement with its billing policy. Remember, the startups have appealed for a cap of 4% for use of Google's billing system. All right, shifting tracks now. Market regulator SEBI has slapped a fine of over 7 crore rupees against several experts who were part of the guest panel of Zee Business News channel. They're accused of making unlawful gains by taking opposite positions in the market than what they advised on air. All right, it's time for a short break, but when we return, we'll tell you the latest about Pakistan elections, where independent candidates backed by Imran Khan's party, the PTI, take the lead in the National Assembly. More details when we return. Welcome back. The list of Bharat Ratna awardees this year has gone up to 5. Prime Minister Modi announced the names of former Prime Ministers P.V. Narasimha Rao, Chaudhry Charan Singh and agricultural scientist M.S. Swaminathan. All three will be conferred with the honour posthumously. Congress's Narasimha Rao was known for his big economic reforms in the 90s as a Prime Minister. This paved the way for an end to the License Raj. He also served as Andhra Pradesh's Chief Minister. Chaudhry Charan Singh formed the first non-Congress government in Uttar Pradesh and served as Prime Minister for a short tenure in 1979. He also worked for the rights of farmers and their welfare. Agricultural scientist M.S. Swaminathan, known as the father of Green Revolution, is also on the list. He played a key role in helping India achieve self-reliance in agriculture. Earlier, the government announced Bharat Ratna for veteran BJP leader LK Advani and former Bihar Chief Minister Karpuri Thakur.
ये बहुत बड़ा दिन है, मेरे लिए भावुक पल है, ये यादगार पल है, स्मरणीय है। 3 अवार्ड दिए गए हैं, खासतौर से चौधरी चरण सिंह जी को जो सम्मानित किया है। बहुत बड़ा संदेश पूरे देश में गया है। देश की भावनाएं इस सरकार के इस फैसले से जुड़ी हैं।
I feel very proud and very happy that my father's work has been recognized by the highest civilian honor in India. Bharat Ratna is the highest honor that you can give, and he has been recognized for his lifetime of contributions, of course, to agriculture, but more important to farmers' welfare.
All right, moving on. Pakistan's Election Commission has now begun to announce the results of the National Assembly and Provincial Assembly elections following a delay in counting of votes even 10 hours after the polls closed. The grouping of independent candidates affiliated to Imran Khan's party, the PTI, has taken the lead in the National Assembly elections. PMLN Nawaz has emerged as the single largest party so far, with Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's Pakistan People's Party a close second. The country's political landscape is largely dominated by 3 major parties: Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and Pakistan People's Party. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18.